People that aren't from Indiana, they don't get it.
These small cities would build gyms to seat 5,000 and 6,000 people, more people than there were in the cities.
Welcome to Coach's Corner with Heck and King. My name is Scott King. I am the producer of this iteration of the podcast. John Overmeyer is doing his real job probably and not hanging out with us. So we have tonight the instant reaction of the NFL draft and really whatever else we want to talk about. I have a rant later about Jerry Reinsdorf, but we'll get to that later. Gentlemen, what's up?
Not much, man. How y'all doing? I mean, how's the weather in Texas?
It's about 65 and mostly sunny.
Well, I'm going to tell you this much: the people in Texas are on cloud nine because with the second pick in the draft, they took C.J. Stroud, the quarterback from Ohio State, who really had a really good year. You know a lot about Ohio State. You watched Ohio State a lot, and then they traded up. My speculation on their trade up is they gave away the number 12 pick that they owned. They gave away their second and third picks of this year, and probably a first and second next year. And with that third pick on the trade up, they selected Will Anderson, Jr., the linebacker or the defensive end from Alabama. And right there, you have two game changers. You have two really, really good football players to throw on the Houston Texans roster.
Yep, one on each side of the ball, right?
Yeah, without question.
They have their foundations for both sides of the line of scrimmage in successive picks.
Yeah, Scott's sitting there in Arlington at the airport, so we're talking about Houston. So the Cowboys are right outside his door. So when they get to Dallas, he may hear some things outside, people yelling and screaming. You never know.
And the Raiders just took a Texas kid, Tyree Wilson from Texas Tech. Really, really good, versatile football player. Can play defensive end, could play inside, could really play three technique. He's about 6'6", about 270, and he goes number 7 to the Las Vegas Raiders, and that's a great pick. So we all know that I'm a big Bear guy. On the clock is the Atlanta Falcons now. Atlanta Falcons are looking for a running back. They may stay in that Texas mode and take Bijan Robinson, the running back from Texas, which then leaves Jalen Carter, the defensive tackle from Georgia, who probably would have been the number 1 pick in this draft, but has slid all the way down now to potentially number 8 because some of his off the field problems. And we'll see if either the Falcons or the Bears will scoop him up. There's been a lot of talk that the Bears will trade down, but I think if the Bears have an opportunity to pick Jalen Carter, I personally think they'll stay with that pick.
They'll go get him. I think so.
Well, why don't you help on both sides of the line of scrimmage?
Heck, why don't you start up at number 1 and just read through things real quick, and we'll go that route.
So as expected. Number 1, Bryce Young went to the Carolina Panthers. There was some late talk that Will Levis would move into that number 1 spot, and I don't know who put that talk out there, but Bryce Young, I think, and like people have said, he's 5'10", he weighs about 200 now. He's probably going to play about 190. He's probably the smallest starting quarterback in the NFL. But he's the most accomplished. He's a great passer. He knows how to move in the pocket. His credentials are great. He's won big football games. So I would have been really surprised if he wasn't the number 1 pick. We talked about the Texans then drafting C.J. Stroud at number 2, and really, really good. Had a great year at Ohio State. Just did a really, really good job. And at 6'2", has great size. Not a running quarterback, a pocket quarterback, but I think he'll do really well in Houston. And then the trade with the Cardinals, the Texans take Will Anderson. So they get bookend offensive and defensive studs to try and turn their program around.
I was going to
Go
say,
ahead.
heck, before you go to Indianapolis, I'm just kind of thinking back to December last year, Christmas time, New Year's, when Houston played the Colts, and Lovie Smith went for 2 and won the game, and that, because they were the last place team and had the first pick basically all season
until
here
that
they
moment.
come, and here they come into the last week, the last quarter, the last play of the season, and all of a sudden they win, and it moves them out of that number 1 spot. And then the Bears fell into it. And then here's Houston now at 2, and then they trade and get number 3. So if you look, things actually worked out pretty well for them.
Yeah, no, they worked out really well. They hired DeMarco Ryans, the defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers, as their head coach. And, man, you get 2 players like that. And I know they had to give up some future draft capital, but when you can get 2 players like that, I think you got to go for it. At number 4, I think the Colts take a gamble. I think the Colts take Anthony Richardson. He's played maybe 10 college football games.
Right, just one season
in his career. He's 6'4". He's ultra athletic. He's got a great arm, but everything's out. As far as can he read defenses, can he adjust? I mean, the NFL is a tough league, and if you can't process information quickly, I mean, look at Justin Fields. It's taken Justin Fields 2 years to maybe learn how to process and read defenses quickly. So I think that's a reach for Indianapolis. It's not a reach from the athlete, because he's a great athlete. And if they have a great quarterback coach, great offensive coordinator, then I think somewhere down the line he'll be a great pick for him.
Well, and they were talking about their other choice would have been Will Levis from Kentucky, and he's still on the board. He's still waiting, and he's probably going to drop down. Who's going to be the next team that wants a quarterback is going to probably be in the second 10, because as you mentioned, these next 3 or 4 picks we're guessing are going to be linemen.
Well, so Will Levis could go to Tennessee, and Tennessee could trade up with the Bears at number 9, because one offensive lineman has gone off the board. Looks like Jalen Carter is going to be the pick of the Atlanta Falcons. That's what I'm thinking right now. So I would look for maybe the Bears to trade down, maybe trade with Tennessee. Tennessee's at 11. Maybe if Tennessee has a feel for Will Levis and looking for that quarterback, Chicago could maybe get Tennessee's second round pick, maybe a third round pick, and then and then the Bears would still be in striking distance to get their offensive linemen. But at number 5 now, the Seahawks made a great pick. Devin Witherspoon, the cornerback from Illinois, is just a really good football player. He's a hitter. He's tough. He's going to come up from the secondary and smoke you. He plays great run defense as well as pass defense. So I think that's a great pick. That's a great pick for the Seattle Seahawks. The Detroit Lions, now we know they make the trade to the Cardinals, and obviously Detroit has somebody in mind maybe later on down the draft. The Cardinals take the first tackle off the board, Paris Johnson, who does a great job and leads Ohio State again. And the Paris Johnson's a really good football player.
And
so we're waiting on the 8th pick then, right?
Yeah, the Falcons are picking at the moment.
Yeah.
The eighth pick is in. They're going to announce it now. The Raiders with the 7th pick took the great lineman from Texas Tech, Tyree Wilson, who's just really good and will be an impact player from day one.
And see, that's a name that we, on Tuesday, I don't recall him being one of the names that we were bouncing around, but he might have been in that second 10 group that we had. But again, he was the second best the top defensive lineman, because Will Anderson's more of a linebacker, or maybe a stand-up end, or like you said, maybe a 9 technique.
It's probably a 3-4 end.
And and exactly what I said here. The Atlanta Falcons took the running back Bijan Robinson from Texas, which now leaves Jalen Carter in play for the Bears. the Bears seriously need a three technique, a defensive tackle. And Jalen Carter at one point was projected to be the best player in the draft before he slid with his personal issues. And at his pro day, he was so out of shape that he couldn't finish the drills. And so what does that tell you? I think it's a gamble either way, because at that number 9 pick, you need a game changer. The Bears need a game changer. They need players. They need day one starters at number 9. And are they going to have to babysit Jalen Carter, or is Jalen Carter going to figure out how to be a pro, how to practice, how to represent himself, and how to go hard on every single play? So we're going to get that answer here in about 10 minutes, because if the Bears don't pick him, that's the reason they're not picking him, because they need him. They need his position. And if Jalen Carter is right, he's a day one starter for the Bears.
I agree. So while we're waiting, why don't we jump to our latest breaking news that we have at the college level? One of the things we talked about Tuesday night was Tyler Buckner from Notre Dame had entered the transfer portal around lunchtime on Tuesday, and there was rumors that he was going to go visit Alabama. And what did we hear today? He's going to Alabama.
Signed. No, so I think if they talk about news outlets and they do timing on news outlets, we announce this. Our little show, man.
We jumped everybody, didn't we?
No, and so that show was called, it's a well-oiled machine, and we were definitely a well-oiled machine because we called that. And so something happened here, because now the Bears traded with the Philadelphia Eagles. So the Bears will get the 10th pick and the Eagles will get the 9th pick. Now the Bears, will have to know that maybe the Eagles didn't want Jalen Carter, that maybe the Eagles wanted somebody differently, or the Bears didn't want to draft Jalen Carter. But that trade is now official. And we're just waiting to see who the Philadelphia Eagles will pick.
That's interesting, because the notes we had was that they were going to pick Bijan Robinson, who's already off the board, or they might even jump up to number 7 to take Jalen Carter if he's still available. So this will be interesting to see what we come up with.
Yeah, I think.
I was going to say, going back to what you said, we called that Tyler Buckner thing at dinner time on Tuesday, and saying that he was going to Alabama because he was Tommy Rees's recruit, and he knows Tommy Rees's system, and one thing leads to another. That the 2 Alabama quarterbacks, it was told that they did not like what they saw on Saturday afternoon from the 2 Alabama quarterbacks, and you even kind of joked. You said Tommy Rees said, "Yeah, I can make a phone call," and whether that happened or not, but here we are on Thursday evening. Here's Tyler Buckner has announced that he's going to Alabama.
I don't think there's any question that that's exactly what happened. If one of those 2 quarterbacks for Alabama would have showed up a little bit in their spring game, maybe it wouldn't have happened. But Nick Saban wants to win, and Nick Saban goes to Tommy saying, "Man, we can't win with these 2 busters, man.
Well,
can you get us somebody out of the portal?" Tommy says, "Let me make a phone call." So here's my question: Would Tommy's phone call have been to Marcus Freeman? Or would Tommy's phone call have been to Tyler Buckner's people and saying, "Hey, if Tyler wants to get into the portal, we'll take him. And here's his NIL money. Let's say we give him $750,000, and he's certainly not making that at Notre Dame." So that would be my question: Did Tommy call Marcus and say, "Hey, coach, listen, do you mind if we get involved with Tyler in the transfer portal?" And did Marcus Freeman think to himself and say, "Hey, I don't want to have a quarterback controversy. Sam Hartman's my guy. Sam Hartman's good enough, and I don't know how Tyler will be if he's not the number 1 quarterback. So I'm going to tell Tommy yes." Or did Marcus Freeman not say that because with Tyler Buckner gone now, his quarterback room is weaker. If Sam Hartman goes down, he's got, Steve Angeli.
That's it right now.
I mean, who's Steve Angeli or the freshman Kenny Minchie from Pittsburgh, who's a true freshman.
So they go, let's picture they go to Columbus, game 1, and
game's at Notre Dame.
The game's at Notre Dame. I beg your pardon.
Yeah, it was in Columbus last year.
Okay, game 1.
Thanks, Scott. Set them straight, man.
Ohio State coming up. I don't have a ticket, so I'll probably be watching it right down here behind me, one of these 3 TVs you see behind me. But regardless, he gets hurt in the first game, just like Buckner did this last year. Pine comes in and plays, 9 games. And now you're looking at Angeli as the starting quarterback. So, don't be surprised if Notre Dame go find another quarterback for a backup.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was just going to say. Don't be surprised if the Irish don't go back to the transfer portal and get another 1-year guy, because next year CJ Carr is coming in, and CJ Carr will be a true freshman, really, really talented. I mean, I don't know if Notre Dame would ever go to war with a true freshman, but CJ Carr, I mean, the word out is that he's really good now. So we got our answer. All right, we got our answer that the Bears didn't think that Jalen Carter was going to be worth the trouble because they traded with the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles took the 9th pick, and Jalen Carter is now just chosen by the Eagles. So that will play hard in the Chicago media starting probably right now, because Jalen Carter was projected to be the number 1 talent in this draft. And the fact that you say that we don't think our coaches can get him right, we don't think our coaches can coach him up, so we're going to trade down a spot. And the Philadelphia Eagles must have gave the Bears their second pick also in the first round to pull this trade off, because the Eagles had 2 picks in the first round.
Yeah, here's a team that was in the Super Bowl, and they've got Jalen Carter, who, as you said, was at one time the number 1 pick.
Yeah, so I'm thinking now that the Bears have 2 picks in the first round.
Okay.
Because the Eagles, and I don't know, just looking right off, the Eagles also had.
And see, I don't have the list.
I do. The Eagles also have a 2nd pick in that first round, and
because the number 10 pick is their pick from New Orleans, so they're going to be down at the bottom around pick 30 or so, I would bet.
Yes.
The Eagles' 2nd pick in the first round is number 31.
Yes, which essentially is the top of the 2nd round for the Bears. And so what the Bears do is, obviously they like their offensive linemen. They like the tackle that they and the tackle could be the kid from Tennessee, or the tackle could be the kid from Georgia. But the Bears like their tackle, or the kid from Northwestern, Peter Skoronski. And so the Bears, in order to get back into that first round, late in the first round, made this trade and told you without telling you what they thought of Jalen Carter.
Yeah. So are they going to pick Skoronski for here at the number 10?
Well, here's the deal on Skoronski. So the length of the arms on tackles, and this blows my mind. They say that they want a tackle's length of arms to be 33 inches or greater. Okay, Skoronski has a length of about 31 3/4.
Oh,
so everybody is saying that Skoronski can't play tackle.
He's got alligator arms.
That it's an inch and a quarter. Everybody is saying
my shirt sleeves are 36.
Everybody's saying that well, if you pick Skoronski, technique wise, he was the best tackle in the draft, but you're going to have to move him inside because his arms are an inch and a quarter too short. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? So years ago, when the Bears or the or the great teams drafted guys like Dick Butkus, and they said, Dick, your arms are too short. We can't draft you. Are you kidding me? Dick Butkus wanted to rip anybody's head off. Forget short arms.
Yeah,
Or like Dwight Freeney and Rob Mathis.
With the way they pass block now, see that extension. That's the advantage they're talking about. Just that chucking with that chuck move they make.
Well,
yeah,
if you don't,
blocked.
If you don't have the move to run people over, spin. It worked for Dwight Freeney. He's in the Hall of Fame. Or he will be.
No. I mean, no. It's the measurables. I mean, it's the measurables.
And see that's the hazard. They've got way too much time on their hand trying to break things down. Those are all the smoke screens and stuff that we have here between Super Bowl and draft day.
Yeah. So the Bears pick is in, and and obviously they need a tackle. They need a tackle to protect Justin Fields, and you're never going to know. You're never going to know how good Justin Fields is if he doesn't get protected. So last year he was sacked 55 times last year, which was the number one sack rate in the NFL for an NFL quarterback. And really the Bears are in a good position here because they have the number one pick of the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers are going to play a rookie quarterback next year. And so will the Carolina Panthers win a lot of games? I don't know, but if the Bears get a top 5 pick next year from Carolina and they decide that Justin Fields isn't their guy, they say the quarterback class next year is really loaded, with the kid from Southern Cal, Caleb Williams.
Right. Hartman from Notre Dame.
Yeah. From North Carolina.
Yeah. So I think it's I think that's got to be the pick for the Bears, and to give Justin Fields, a chance to see if he can play. They talk about the Bears leading the league in rushing this past year, which they did. They led the NFL in rushing, but that's kind of a misnomer because they led the league in rushing because their quarterback ran for 1,100 yards.
He had to run for his life a lot of times.
And it wasn't because of the fact that their tackles, their guards, and their center opened up lanes for running backs. Their quarterback ran for his life. And just as I suspected, the Bears took Darnell Wright, the offensive tackle from Tennessee, and Darnell Wright, Will Anderson, and a couple other players in the SEC said that Darnell Wright was the best tackle that they went against in the SEC.
I heard he was big too. I mean, he's huge. He's like
6'5", 330.
Yeah, he's
showed his
house.
stats up on TV.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the Bears had to pick an O lineman, whether Paris Johnson dropped down to 10 or wherever the Bears were going to draft originally 9, I think, or wherever else it was. I mean, they had to get somebody on the line.
Sorry, I'm turning around, but I'm checking the scores here.
It's all good. And I guess just to go back into the early parts of the picks. So I've watched every snap of every quarterback at Ohio State since Troy Smith. So I watched Troy Smith. I watched the one-year wonder of Todd Beckman. I watched Joe Bauserman and that god-awful year. I watched Terrell Pryor. I watched JT Barrett, Braxton Miller, Justin Fields. CJ Stroud easily is the best passer out of all of them. I mean, it's not even close.
And see, are all those guys were all supposed to be pros? Where are they?
No, they were never going to be pros. They in Trestle ball, he wasn't going to develop a pro quarterback. Neither was Urban. I mean, look at the quarterbacks Urban had prior. Alex Smith at Utah, he turned out to be an okay pro, but Braxton Miller was never going to be an NFL QB, not in 10 years ago, especially before the super athletic quarterback came to really be popular. JT Barrett had one great game against Penn State when he had to make that insane comeback. But JT Barrett, the staple of the Ohio State offense was QB power to the 4 hole. And then Ryan Day comes in from the NFL and actually wants to pass the ball. So Dwayne Haskins comes in and breaks every Big Ten record for passing in his 1 year, gets drafted, I think, middle of the first round, and unfortunately, got killed before anybody really had a chance to find out how good he really was. After he got traded to the Steelers, he had a new lease on life there, but the jury's still out on Justin Fields. But I think and I hope CJ Stroud is a good enough passer to maybe not be elite in the league, but be a solid starter for 10 years. That's my hope.
Yeah.
Southern Knit Studio is a proud supporter of Coach's Corner, and she makes awesome blankets. And I'm not just saying that because she's my sister. I have several of her blankets at home, and my wife insists on buying more. So go to southernknitstudio.com, buy a blanket. They come in a bunch of sizes and a bunch of colors. And right now, 10% of all sales are going to a fund that helps with mental health services for nurses, especially now in the wake of the Nashville school shooting and the role that Vanderbilt Children's Health played in helping all of those kids that were unfortunately involved in that mass murder. It is taking a toll on the healthcare professionals down in Nashville. So do us all a favor, go to southernknitstudio.com, buy a blanket, and you can have the peace of mind knowing that you are supporting a great cause. All right, hey, we're back from our little break. Heck had to run and do some stuff at home. So it's just the two of us now. It's called Coach's Corner with King and King, and we're not real.
Sounds good to us.
I'm not a coach of any kind. I volunteer with the First Tee of Indiana, teaching little kids how to golf, but I wouldn't really call myself a coach. So, oh well, that's just nomenclature and semantics.
Yeah.
So right now,
one of the things we were talking about was before the break was with the Bears. Basically, I'm sure the Chicago media is going to have a field day with this, showing the Bears did not want Jalen Carter, and they traded that pick to Philadelphia. Philadelphia takes Jalen Carter, and then the Bears have the 10th pick, and they take Darnell Wright, big lineman from Tennessee. So,
which I had alluded to earlier is a good pick.
That's a very good
for what
pick.
They needed. Absolutely is.
Yeah. So then now we've got the Tennessee takes an offensive tackle. They take Peter Skoronsky from Northwestern, which is what we had thought about, because he's probably the next best lineman. And then the Lions finally get a pick. Overmeyer will like that. Then they take Gibbs, another running back. So there you got a second running back now off the board. So with the 12th pick, Detroit picks a running back. Green Bay at number 13 takes a lineman, Lucas Van Ness from Iowa. So
this is a very trench-heavy draft so far.
Well, and it's showing the trends. Yeah. You're getting linemen to protect the quarterback.
Yep.
And we've seen one corner, haven't seen any wide receivers yet.
No.
But, the first rounds all kind of show, and we mentioned this on Tuesday in our show, you see a lot of these teams that are trading down, and some people don't understand that, but when they trade down, they're in compensation. They're trading down a pick, but they're also picking up second-round picks, third-round picks, a second-round pick next year, a third-round pick 2 years from now. So they're stockpiling those second, third, and fourth-round picks, and that's where you fill in your team. You look at these rosters and see how many times you've got players that are second, third, fourth, fifth-round picks that are in the lineup, as rookies. So that just shows you how deep some of these drafts really are.
Yeah, and I think this draft kind of like several here in the past, it will be very heavy on not sexy positions. So a lot of linebackers, linemen,
blue collar stuff, if you want to call it that,
and some very good tight ends too, with Dalton Kincaid from Utah and Michael Mayer from Notre Dame. That'll probably, if not one of them, probably both of them first round talents for sure. Will they both go first round? Maybe, maybe not. But here, just in the next 2 picks before it gets before we time out ourselves with the Jets and the artist formerly known as the Redskins, now the Commanders. I wouldn't expect a receiver to go to either of those teams because the Jets traded for one of Aaron Rodgers' guys, and they drafted Garrett Wilson last year, who was Offensive Rookie of the Year. And then you've got Washington next, who is probably pretty solid at receiver with Terry McLaurin as their number 1 guy. And guess what? Both of them Ohio State guys, and Terry McLaurin from Indianapolis, Indiana.
There you go.
So there you go.
Well,
he was
while
Mr.
we're
Football the
on,
year I graduated. Or no,
Yeah.
yeah, he was 2014.
Yeah, he was. While we're waiting on that, let's slide over to the NBA. We've got a game going on right now. With us doing this on a Thursday night, I know you're going to tape it and have it ready for people on Friday. But the Celtics and Atlanta are in the third quarter right now of a close ball game. I think it was 68-67 at the half. And that's a must-win game for Atlanta here in Game 6. Boston leads 3-2. Tomorrow night, we've got Game 6 with Memphis and the Lakers out in Los Angeles. And we also have Sacramento and Golden State. And what's interesting is both those games are Game 6. They're both West Coast games. One of them is going to start at like 8 o'clock our time, which is I think it's Golden State and Sacramento. So that means that's going to be a 5 o'clock start on a Friday afternoon. I think that game's in San Francisco. I think it's a home game for Golden State, and they got a chance to close out Sacramento. Sacramento's the 3 and Golden State's the 6, and then you've got the huge one upset coming up here. The Lakers are a 7 seed. Memphis is a 2. And this, the possibility, this is going to be the second year in a row that Memphis has been a first round out in the playoffs. And then on the ones that have finished, Miami, huge upset last night at 8 seed over Milwaukee, who was the 1 seed. We found out if Giannis isn't healthy, if he's not playing, we found out Milwaukee's not very good.
Which is kind of weird to say about a number 1 seed losing to an 8 2 years after they won a title.
Defending title, but we found out Jimmy Butler's pretty good. He had 56 one night, and 2 nights later he comes back with 40 some. So Jimmy Butler's playing very, very well.
And something else I will allude to later, Jimmy Butler, former Bull, owned by none other than Jerry Reinsdorf.
Yeah, that's going to be our next little episode. So you got Miami and the Knicks that are going to be starting up, and because of the seedings, the Knicks as a 5 seed will get the extra game, so they'll start that one off. So if there's a Game 7, it will be in New York against the 8 seed Miami Heat. Over in the West, you've got the 1 seed Denver Nuggets and the 4 seed Phoenix. So that one went straight chalk, which is so far the only one that we'll use college terms on the picks. It was gone straight chalk. The Sixers are waiting on the winner of the Celtics and Atlanta. If Boston would win, and that one would be also chalk. That would be a 2 versus 3 with the Philadelphia and Boston starting round 2. So that's a little bit I know on that one.
I can't see a world where the Hawks actually can manage to pull out 2 more games against the Celtics. I think Philly and Boston will be a fun series if and when it happens.
So you want to let's jump over here to your baseball stuff. Scott wants to talk about the White Sox real quick. Heck's the Cubs guy. Scott's the White Sox. So he's gonna talk a little bit about the White Sox and how bad they are right now, considering they were supposed to be pretty good this year.
Supposed to be one of the best teams in baseball.
So what's going on or what's not going on in Chicago on the South Side?
It's a treasure trove of suck. And it pains me to say, as a fan, since forever. I mean, as long as I've really been around, I've been a South Side guy.
I have
because
no idea
that was
why, but you were a White Sox fan.
That was the stadium that was closer to us growing up.
That's a good point.
So if we were going to go anywhere, we went to the south side because then we wouldn't have to drive through Chicago. And
to get to Wrigley.
And a trip to the south side of Chicago only took, I don't know, hour and 45 minutes.
Hour and 30, hour and 40, yeah. Right?
And this was back, 2005 when the Sox won the World Series. I was in 4th grade. So, I mean, that was
kid.
That was the era that I fell in love with baseball. I mean, I could name you the entire starting lineup with the
you were in
pitching
Little League.
Staff.
It was important to you.
And I always wanted to wear number 14 or number 23 because Paul Konerko and Jermaine Dye were my dudes. And I loved AJ Pierzynski. When AJ Pierzynski got into that fight with Michael Barrett on the north side, that was one of the highlights of my life. It wasn't winning the World Series, wasn't bringing the first baseball championship to Chicago since, World War I. It was dominating the Cubs every year. It didn't matter whether the Sox were awful or when we finally did decent. It was always winning the Crosstown Trophy.
It's kind of like a Purdue IU thing. It doesn't matter how good you are, just make sure you beat the other guys in town.
With very few exceptions, the Sox were head-to-head the better team in Chicago. And I've sat through 25 years, basically, of Kenny Williams and Rick Hahn and Jerry Reinsdorf has owned the team since the 80s. But this rebuild and everything has been an abject failure. I'll have a video post here. I was
going to say you've got a. You're not the only one that has this opinion. Tell me about the radio shows and the talk shows in Chicago have been brutal, from what I understand.
There are tens of thousands of disaffected fans like me, which is the reason why I'm wearing Rangers gear. Not only because I am in Texas right now and I'm moving to Texas in June.
And you're not too far from the stadium.
Moving to Dallas specifically. It's because I've sunk in my lifetime. I've sunk thousands of dollars into Sox tickets, gear, whatever, going to games, all that, lining Jerry Reinsdorf's pockets. And I'm over it. It's not even May. It's not even May. The team is 7-18. Has not scored a run in 4 games on a team that is full of guys that you would think would produce offensively, with Eloy Jimenez, Yoan Moncada, Andrew Vaughn, Jose Abreu. See ya. Unfortunately, build the statue. I kind of jumped off the train when they got rid of Jose Abreu, and I knew it was probably a good strategic move, just because you had too many guys that were first basemen. But I mean, Jose Abreu was the guy.
He was a good player.
But there's a caller into Waddle and Sylvie on ESPN 1000, and I'll have the video posted when I actually post this video. And he goes on a rant for about 7 minutes of the ineptitude of Jerry Reinsdorf and the fact that if Jerry had not lucked into Michael Jordan at number 3, because the Trailblazers weren't going to take a guard. They already had, or the Rockets weren't going to take a guard. Neither were the Trailblazers, so they picked Hakeem Olajuwon and Sam Bowie 1-2. So you had Michael Jordan available, number 3, and he just fell on your lap and is the best.
So you've got people going all the way back into the 80s with stories about Reinsdorf.
If it weren't for Dan Snyder, Jerry Reinsdorf would be the worst owner.
I've been a diehard Chicago White Sox fan for nearly 40 years. I say that with the very express intent of sharing my deep and undying love for this team. And my call is rooted in heartbreak, not anger. Don't get me wrong, I'm angry, but it is a byproduct of a dysfunctional, abusive relationship with the front office and the ownership of the Chicago White Sox. I also want to say I have defended this rebuild. I liked what the team did with the trades. I defended Yasmani in Dallas. I didn't understand the La Russa hire, but I gave them the benefit of the doubt. I forgave the free agents they let go. I was befuddled by the Benintendi and Clevenger signings, but you know what? I said, I'm going to give them one last shot. And when they canceled Sox Fest, like the cowards they are, I knew something was up. But now we know. Obviously, the experiment is over. The vast majority of the prospects have been busts. The product on the field is pathetic. We have exactly 2 players of excellence on this roster, Dylan Cease and Tim Anderson. Everyone else is nowhere near the kind of player they need to be to make this a winning team. You'd think that would be enough to wake this organization up. But yesterday, Kenny Williams had the gall to say that he's not in a good place right now, and accountability is not an issue. You're right, he's not in a good place. He's not in a job he should have. Think about all the promises that Rick Hahn made, mired in mediocrity, that he bragged about Romy Gonzalez in spring training, and I'll trade him if I get the right price. Think about the things Grifol said, come to the park, we're going to kick everyone's butt. They must have been talking about the fans, not the other teams. The entire lineup is batting under 220. The best hitter on the team is Jake Berger. We're a AAA team. Our right fielders are hitting 180 with a weighted run created plus of 28. I don't even need to tell you about the pitching staff. Katz has got to go. Moncada, T.A., Eloy, Yaz, Joe Kelly. It's week 4. They've all already been hurt. Tens of millions of dollars on replacement level players while stars go elsewhere. We're 11 games under 500. The Bears needed 6 months to get 11 games under 500. We needed 3 weeks. In the 15 years of Rick Hahn, we have been a constant experiment that has never panned out. In the 25 years of Kenny Williams, we had exactly 1 season of excellence with a perfect storm of players that has not once come even close to being the same. I don't want to hear about the strength of schedule in April. With the money we've spent, the players we have playing 500 ball should be underachieving, not 11 games under 500. We keep going after players that Rick Hahn liked 5 years ago. Lance Lynn, over the hill. Yaz, over the hill. Benintendi, he wanted him in the draft 6 years ago. He's got a .1 WAR. Clevenger isn't just a clubhouse cancer and a disgusting human being. He's a horrendous pitcher. Joe Kelly has been useless. We signed Vince Velasquez. Give me a break. John Jay, Yonder Alonso. Between them, that's $200 million on a bunch of black holes and an ERA of 240. The entire organization is poisoned. The entire way that they go about their business is a failure. Firing Rick isn't enough. Firing Kenny isn't enough. If Chris Guest gets promoted and we have to sit through another 15-year retool rebuild, you're just going to hear from me again in 2038. I don't care if we go on a torrid winning streak in May and June and somehow get back to 500 ball, and then we scooch our way into the postseason and the wild card, only to get bounced right away by a team that's actually good. We have no depth in our organization. 1 injury and we are done. This process isn't working. Our farm system has been in the bottom 10 for 45 years, aside from the one frame of time when they traded all our talent away and graduated them all right up, and then we were the worst again. There is one solution. In his final years, Jerry Reinsdorf, who, by the way, wouldn't even have the reputation he has if he hadn't have lucked upon Michael Jordan at 3 in 1984, has the courage to get rid of the yes men around him and fire everyone. He bought into the Chicago Bulls and the White Sox for $20 million. He's worth $2 billion now. He needs to use a fraction of that money he made on the backs of Chicago's blue-collar baseball fans and pay for a front office to come and rebuild everything. Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams cannot be trusted to rebuild this team again. They need to retire and go off into the sunset and play golf with the millions of dollars they made on their cushy paychecks for a job that they had a longer leash for than any executive in the history of the modern era of baseball. Let someone qualified come in and run this team. At this point, we would need a historic turnaround to even be mildly relevant. Everyone said the AL Central was weak, and it might be in comparison to others, but the Sox aren't better than the Guardians or the Twins. We're not even better than the Royals. And the fact that we're only incrementally better than the Tigers is exactly the kind of indictment on this organization that we need. The lack of success that this roster has is a referendum on what we've already seen in 2006, 2007, 2011, 2013, 2015, and 16, and the excruciating last 7 years that only led to this. I mean, Stoney is more worried about Lance Lynn eating a salad than the entire organization not knowing how to teach major league prospects how to hit a baseball.
All right, Berno.
Berno, you get an A+ purely on presentation.
I mean, like that was
presentation.
That's the call of the year, right
that's
there.
Will Ferrell debating James Carville and just knocking him out with one swing.
Listen, with $200 million, we're the laughing stock in the league, and everyone needs to be gone. I just needed other people in Chicago to be on that. That's the bandwagon we in Chicago need to be on. The entire front office, ownership, they all need to go.
Ooh. Okay.
The White Sox are one of 3 teams in Major League Baseball who have never signed a $100 million player. 3. And we talked last week about Shohei Ohtani potentially getting $500 million. The richest contract in White Sox history, I believe, is to Andrew Benintendi. Not a star by any means. He's good. He's been serviceable his entire career, but he's not filling the stadium.
No.
And in this team full of dudes that the Sox have sucked since 2013. I mean, this rebuild has been 10 years in the making, and it's failed. The Sox have won a playoff series 1 year, and they won 3 playoff series in that 1 year, and that was 2005. Since 2005, the White Sox have not won a series in the postseason. So I will link the video. I love this team. I will always love this team, but I can't support them right now.
But
Rick Hahn needs to go. Kenny Williams needs to go. And Jerry Reinsdorf either needs to sell the team, or this is the most non-Catholic thing I will ever say. There will be a parade the day Jerry Reinsdorf dies.
Just get out of the way and let somebody else do it, right?
Like I'm never wishing for somebody to die. Do not get it twisted. I do not want Jerry Reinsdorf to die.
Way, right?
Yes, he just needs to leave. Whether that means go and hang out down here in DFW or go buy an island in Bermuda, just leave. Bye. There will be a big enough parade for, I'm sure, for a lot of people when Lori Lightfoot leaves Chicago. The same size parade will happen when Jerry Reinsdorf leaves Chicago. He's 87 years old. You would think by now he would spend the money to win toward the end of his life, but he is still pinching pennies. He never will stop.
Well, I'm happy you fell off the fence on the one side or the other here, so we know what's going on. So you're going to show the video. We can real talk. Let's talk about next week. Next week we will be at Bar Louie on Tuesday, I believe. Yeah, we're going to be there Tuesday again. Yep, Tuesday night, and we're going to work on trying to find a couple college coaches to come in and talk a little bit about recruiting for basketball. And I think we've got 3 more shows left. We're going to be run up until the middle of May, and then we'll take a break for the summer and then come back for football season. But we appreciate everybody listening, tuning in. We had over 200 live tune-ins to our show Tuesday night, and you've got YouTube people, numbers from people that have watched it since, and we're getting very good response. We appreciate everybody tuning in, and Scott's going to have this ready for you on Friday. And then again, we'll have stuff posted on Instagram and Facebook for telling you what's going on for Tuesday. So I appreciate you on that. So Scott, why don't you close us out and we'll go from there.
So until next time, everybody, like the video that you're watching, or if you're listening to the audio, subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, leave a rating. Somebody somewhere somehow gave us a 1-star review on Apple Podcasts. I don't know who you are, but I will find you and I will scold you and ask you why. Of all the hard work that I've put in to put this podcast out there, why are you giving us 1 star? I hope it was an accident, but
It might be
Regardless.
it might be a Penn person or a Washington person that either doesn't like Heck or doesn't like me. Let's get out of here.
yeah.
Well-
So subscribe to the channel on YouTube, like the video, subscribe to the podcast. We do pretty well here, but we can always do more. Tell your friends about it. And until next time, thanks for watching Coach's Corner with Heck and King and sometimes the other King. See ya.